All right, starting live stream. Give me 1 second. All right, we are live. Have a great show. Thank you.
Come with us on a journey into the unknown, the unexplained, and the unbelievable. We will test your senses and challenge your beliefs. A world where science and religion clash. Or do they? You will meet real people and hear real stories, but you will not believe. You will witness strange sights and hear strange sounds, but you will not believe. This is the New England Ghost Project. Welcome to the nightmare.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Ghost Chronicles, the medium rare edition. I am Ron Kolick, your host, the gatekeeper of the realm, the unknown, the unexplained, and the unbelievable New England's own Van Helsing. And with me, my co-host, Miss Medium Rare herself, Leslie Martin.
Good evening, everyone. How are you tonight, Ron?
Well, hopefully I don't set up any more fire detectors.
So last night was our monthly meeting of our red light seance with our group. And I was running late and I pull up, it starts at 7 and I pull up at 6:57 into the parking lot and I can't get into a parking space because there is a fire truck with the lights going. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll park over here next to a dumpster where anyone can accost me at any time. And I walk inside. And Ron, what had happened?
Yeah, well, as you know from the last Spirit Quest, that I came up with this great idea for a spirit manifestation cabinet. Is that a word? No, manifestation.
Manifestation sure is.
Sure, whatever. Anyways, yeah, and part of it included a fog machine. Well, the room we were going to use it at the red light seance to see if we could have the spirit manifest their face in the cabinet. And unfortunately, the room we were in had a very sensitive smoke detector. So, yeah.
Hardwired.
Yeah, hardware. So, anyways, we had to take things down quickly and explain to the fire department what the hell happened. So, there you go. But we have a guest tonight, and hopefully, this won't be a fire wreck mice anymore. She is somebody that I've been listening to on PowerX. She has two shows, Phantasm, which is on Wednesday nights at 9, and Paranormal Encounters, which is on Thursday nights at 11. And I've been listening to her voice for the longest time, and she always has great guests and everything else, but she also has a lot of experiences to tell as well. So I decided to ask her if she would join us, and I was very privileged to say that joining us now is Dr. Kelly Renee Schutz. So
Hello there. How are both of you tonight?
good. Thank you for joining us.
So
Nope.
welcome.
Yeah,
Nice to meet
well,
you.
nice to meet you, Leslie. I think maybe this is our first time.
Yes, it is. It is. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So you sent me your bio, and I was looking at it, and one thing that stood out, which occurs a lot of times in the paranormal people, especially sensitive, is that you've had experiences all your life.
Yeah, I would say that to condense that biography was very, very difficult. And creating a website with the same was even more difficult. But I have had, I would say, well over 100+ experiences with not only just the paranormal, but also with maybe 3 or 4 perceived otherworldly experiences, which I have been dissecting one by one for the last few years. But I have had experiences all the way back to age 3, which, by the way, I finally was able to do that chronology a couple of years ago after putting 2 and 2 together, because I continue to have experiences. I would call myself a beacon. And so my experiences not only evolve, but they change too. And so it's not always the same old thing. It's like, I don't know, they just have a life of their own. And I have 12 books out on Amazon. When I started my first book back in 2016, it was a journaling project. I could not talk about, I used to work in law for several years. I've worked as a college professor for 20 years. This is something you just don't readily bring up, but I was having a number of experiences in both situations, but I had to remain silent because, you know, sometimes you just work in places that there are, people that just do not believe in this stuff, and it could get you in a lot of trouble. So I
But
remain silent.
Kelly, do you think it's changed though? I mean, because I was on the Harvard Pilgrim Appeals Board, and I sat with the top echelon of Harvard Pilgrim, which includes psychologists and the president's lawyers, the whole thing, doctors and of each department and everything else, and they all knew what I did, and I'd always have to come in early to the meetings because they'd want to hear about it, and they always had their own experiences. Don't you think that once you open up, that people do tend to accept it more?
I think it depends on where you live.
Oh, okay.
Just to give you an example, there are some places where this is more accepted.
Mhm.
Like I know where you reside, and I would feel that it'd probably be more accepted, or rather than where I have lived.
Oh,
Even though I've lived in states that have had very prominent, not only hauntings, you would be surprised that religion does sometimes win out over how people really feel about this subject. So it remains a pseudoscience for that reason. However, when I came out, as they say, and I did that with my first book, I was very nervous because that is like something where I worked. You just do not, you don't say anything about it. You keep quiet. It could ruin businesses. It could ruin your career. Uh,
wow.
yeah. So no, I don't think so. And I've got some best friends, even to this day, who are very much skeptics, including family members. And no, they absolutely, it's a demon, or stop playing with this weird stuff you talk about, or it's all in your head. It's still in some places all in your head. So you have to tread carefully. And I've been very fortunate to be a speaker in many different parts of the United States. So I have had the opportunity to feel out the presence of the mindsets of people from all the way from the West all the way to the East. And yeah, I would just say air with caution. It's not something that you can always bring up over the water cooler.
I agree with you, Kelly. I think that us living in the Northeast, it's a little more, accepted. We have Salem, we have the witch trials, we have a lot of paranormal things going on up here. It's the oldest part of the country. But I have been to other parts of the country. I went down south to my friend Clay's, who is part of the Ghost Project's hometown, and he says down there, you can't talk about this stuff down here because it is not accepted. People keep it under their hats. And I find that up here sometimes too. Like I work in education. I don't talk about what I do outside of work when I work in education. So I agree with you wholeheartedly there.
Hmm.
Yeah, one of the things that I learned really quickly was, and maybe this is just all part of the lessons we learn in life about when you meet people, or you move to different places, or you expand yourself out a little bit more. You do learn. I used to think I could live anywhere. Really, I did, because I wouldn't necessarily call myself a people person per se, but if I'm with my group, I'm very much a people person. And so I thought, oh, I could live anywhere, I could interact, I could blend really easily. No, no, no. I think for anyone who can relate to that theory, it's not always, but you do come to recognize very quickly your differences, and where you used to live, or where you thought you enjoyed living. And so, yeah, I'm getting ready to go possibly on a major move to a state where it's the absolute opposite of where I live right now in terms of mindset and the whole 10 yards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if this move happens, which I think it's going to in the next few months, I have to be very careful about who I talk with. I hate the question, what do you do? Oh, I just hate that when people ask me that question because I fell into this. I fell into it think about being in law for 8 years and being really good at what you do and being able to read people, and then going to college teaching for 20 years and having to have to interact with a lot of different personalities and including the people you actually work with too. And then think about immersing yourself right back into a situation where you're not sure if they're going to accept you. And when they ask that question of me, I absolutely hate it. Well, I used to do this, and I had a guy once. He asked me, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, very very bluntly, I said I'm retired. I can do anything I want to do." And he looked at me and he said, "I don't think you're telling the truth. I think you do something else." He didn't know what I did. He really didn't. But he just could feel from my hesitation that there was something more to me. So when I told him, well, I'm a paranormal podcaster. I have a TV show, and now I have 5 podcasts and writing books and doing film and the whole 10 yards. And I will tell you, he about faced so fast. And I thought, well, there we go. Another blockage right there. I can tell exactly where he stands. So anyway, yeah, tread carefully. Understand that not all populations act or react the same.
Mm. It's interesting. I've never ran into that problem at all, being up here. When I first got involved, which was many, many years ago, I was more of a celebrity up here than anything else. People would just say, "Oh, what's wrong?" What's going on. So, they'd want to know more stuff. Of course, then after more and more the ghost hunters came on and everything else, and it became more affluent. And it's like now it's like everybody, oh yeah, my niece is a ghost hunter. Everybody's somebody's in their families is a ghost hunter or a medium or something. So it seems different, but yet it seems more widely accepted, I think, anyways.
I would say I would say that because of social media and television programming, I would say that it's a little bit better than what I remember it being 10 years ago when I first came out of the paranormal closet, as they say. And it's better, but in the mindsets of some of the skeptics that I know, especially family and friends, it has never changed. Their attitudes remain the same. They're not going to give an inch if they had to. So very interesting, though. I'd love to live in a world where I could just say, "Yeah, I'm a paranormal podcaster," and feel accepted. But
We're up here then. We do it here. I'm a Knights of Columbus. I'm a steward in the church, and they know what I do, and the church knows what I do, and it's accepted by them. It's it's really different up here than to what you're telling me seems so strange and alien to me.
Yes, but
yeah,
Ron, like I live my life in boxes, and when I'm with family, I don't open the paranormal box because they're in the wrong box. They're in the family box.
Yeah, you
yep.
and your boxes.
So and when you're in your profession, you don't open that box because it's not the paranormal box. The box does get opened a little bit with people who come and ask you questions where you work, but you don't share it with the general population.
Mm, whatever.
So I feel everything that
But that's
Kelly
your
said,
choice rather than I think.
Well,
Yeah.
like for the first time just today, I advertised that we were doing this radio show on my regular Facebook page, and I never do that.
Oh, God bless you.
So so I don't know. I'm feeling her. I'm feeling her.
You
Okay.
know, I was out and I was speaking at a conference a couple years ago, and I was on a panel, and this one woman raised her hand out in the audience, and she had said, I can't seem to convince my friends that what I experience is real or whatnot. And I grabbed the mic from the person sitting next to me and I said, "I'll take this one." And I took command all right. And I looked right at her and I said, "Do you see all these people that you're sitting around right now? This is your community. You can say anything you want to probably practically everyone in here, and except there's always a few spies. I have to tell you, at every conference I'm at, there's always a few spies sitting out there. But I said, these are the people you talk to your what's happening in your life about. You don't run around and try to convince anybody that what you've experienced is real, because it's the people lose friends, people get some backlash, people learn really quickly where people stand on their belief systems. If you really want to put yourself in that position and find out, yeah. So anyway, I think she felt a little better knowing that she made a risk, or took a risk in her life to express herself, but she expressed everything that and by the way, while I was there, while I was talking with her, actually an apparition, a ghost, something came over the microphone system. It was not anybody in the room or whatever. It was
Oh, wow.
something. Yeah. I have paranormal energy wherever I go. There's always going to be something that happens. And so this one was commenting, and it was the next day when someone that I know pretty well, he was sitting out in the audience, and he had brought me up in front of the audience as they were doing what they call their ending of the conference wrap up. And he said, people don't realize that what came over that loudspeaker was actually an apparition commenting to what Kelly was talking about to this woman yesterday. It wasn't any kind of a technical mishap.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I've got it everywhere I go. Here we are. So I don't really have to look for it anymore. It usually comes to me.
I had a curious question though. You said spies. What do you mean by that? Because that's something I am not familiar with.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. So a few years ago, I was asked to speak in Las Vegas at a UFO conference. And one of the things that I was told was that you be very careful what you say and how you say it when you're speaking. And by the way, that event was canceled, but I was given a heads up that there's oftentimes at least a few people sitting out in the audience that are very, very curious and very mindful of some of the speakers and some of the people that attend these things. And they're not necessarily there for your benefit. It's not like one big happy family. We all come together as a community. There actually are a few that sit out there who do not believe in this stuff, but they want to hear what the latest discoveries are, if there are discoveries or theories or thoughts in the field. So I play it safe, and I just talk from my experiences, and I do show evidence. And it's like, go ahead if you want to try and debunk this. Try. I'd love to hear what you think it is. But yeah, there don't always think that there's someone sitting in the group that's all for the paranormal. There's some out there that genuinely want to grab information so they can tear it apart in another way.
Yeah, I mean, but you have groups in the paranormal that do that to each other.
Oh, yeah. And that's the one thing that from what I see on my end, or at least those that I associate with, are trying very, very hard to keep this more of a positive, community based sense and more of a team mind thought rather than a tearing each other down, competitive, nasty. That stuff has no place as far as I'm concerned. If that's something you like to do, I would like to ask people to reevaluate why you do it. I guess I come from a different mindset. I'm along with the more positive, community-based thinkers like, and I'm not saying people don't get jealous of each other. Sometimes people do come up with things, but we are also a pseudoscience rehashing some of these theories over and over and over again. And I have talked with hundreds of people, interviewed them actually on my show that can, shows plural, that have made incredible discoveries with technology and equipment that they use things. And I know, not personally, but I have books and have seen things otherwise to demonstrate. So that's when it gets competitive. And I can see that out there, especially if someone wants to market something that might make them some money, then all of a sudden there's a little bit of riff and a raft that seems to go on behind the scenes.
Mhm. Now, if somebody wants to find out more about you, Kelly, how can they do that?
I would say the best place to start would be my website, www.paranormaluniversalpress.com. And it's one heck of a biography. Start from the top and scroll all the way to the bottom. You'll be quite amazed. My life has really exploded. And if you want to look me up on Facebook, please do so.
Okay. And it's so interesting. How did you, I mean, why did you write books, I guess, is the question. Why did you make the jump to writing books?
Well, in 2016, when I was teaching college, I was having so many experiences, even not just at the college, but everywhere I went. It really started out when I photographed a couple apparitions in a screen window of my great grandfather's property. And I have, it's a remarkable picture, by the way, of a little girl and a man staring at me after a tornadic event ripped right behind their property and caused this energy to actually bring forth their images. And then what happened after that was, and that was in 2007. And so I started, I learned I was telepathic because when I recognized back in the day when you went and had your film printed, I recognized that there was a man and a little girl in that window looking right down at me. And I had no idea at the time. I was there on the property by myself. I discovered some things, went back the next day. I learned I was telepathic when I looked at the window and said, you have my attention. Can I help you? I said, that's remarkable. Are you? And it could have been tricksters or whatever, but I don't think so. And I heard in my head, your genealogy is wrong. And I was so baffled. I thought, genealogy is wrong? And what it was I had the little girl's name wrong, which was absolutely 100% correct. I found a picture, matched it up with her face and the gentleman as well. And so that's when I learned I could hear voices in my head or receive messages in my head. And that's when I became obsessed with haunted bed and breakfasts because I felt like if I died at one, it would make the paper and it would shut them down. So, it's just kind of like, yeah, that's my theory. Well, if I die, they'll have to shut it down. But anyway, the thing is that I had so many experiences and I kept these quiet for years and years. So 2007 to 2016, I couldn't hold it in anymore. So I started journaling and I said, you know what? Someone else might benefit from this book. My book, which turned into 12 and turned into just several remarkable, interesting experiences and stories and analogies and my own theories. I would call myself a citizen researcher, someone who studies herself in moments when unusual things happen that cannot necessarily be explained. And I am very insightful and very intuitive. So my observations help me at least try to come up with something.
That's great. I I know we're coming up to the break now, but don't you believe though that we should have critical thinking, and that means we should have people that actually challenge our thoughts. It only makes them stronger.
Oh, I think that we should not portray ourselves as having the absolute answer to anything, but that includes science. I mean, I have a PhD, and I know that the minute I publish something, the next day, believe it or not, it's already outdated. So the whole idea is to try to see what we might be able to come down to some ideas or some theories about what just happened, debunk it as best as we can, leave it as an experience if you have to, and just know that someone else is going to take that and probably run with it in a different way. And you know what? That's perfectly fine, because I don't think there's a lot of things in this world are unexplained, and they'll always remain that way, whether you're in science or whether you're in a pseudoscience like what we're in.
So you recognize that paranormal investigating is a pseudoscience.
Yep, I do. I do, because one of the things that people always want to say is, oh, well, you'll never be able to prove that. I might not be able to prove that, but I have evidence to show that whatever I have cannot be technically, probably, not sure, not always, can be replicated.
Mhm.
I just talked about an EVP experience that I had that was a possible residual. I have photographed things that I don't think could ever be replicated again. So, yeah, as a pseudoscience, everyone wants you to be able to replicate something. Well, that's great. But you know what? As soon as you do, it's outdated anyway.
Yeah,
And
and
plus, you're
plus,
capturing a moment in time. I mean, you cannot replicate a moment in time.
Exactly. I'm going to give you an example when you're ready for it. I don't know if we're at a break here.
we're very close to the break, so I don't want to get anything too long. But I one thing I know Steve Parsons. He's my co-host for Ghost Chronicles International. He's one of the leading parapsychologists in the UK, and uh, he said something that has always stuck with me, and I absolutely believe it. He said they'll ask him, "Do you believe in ghosts?" And he always says, "Well, I believe that people believe they see ghosts," and that's absolutely true because the paranormal is such a personal experience. It's almost impossible to validate it really as far as prove it scientifically even. uh it's such a personal experience. I think that's what the paranormal is. It's meant for the person that it occurs to.
Oh, I agree. Every time I have an experience, my husband's sleeping right next to me. So if yeah, that doesn't do it right there, I don't know what will.
Yeah, well, it could be a sound sleep. I don't know. Anyway, the same thing happened. I was sleeping in a haunted room, the Concord Colonial Inn and thing, and the most haunted room, of course. Yada yada. We had done a radio show there, and my wife and I was sleeping the night, and right in the middle of the night, uh, the bed started shaking and everything else. Do you think she woke up? No, not
No.
at all. No, not at all. So I think it was meant for me and really not for her. So I agree so much. Anyways, we do have to take a break. You're listening to Ghost Chronicles, the Medium Rare Edition, right here on TogiNet Radio and PowerX Radio. And we're all good podcasts go to die. I am Ron Kolick, your host, and my co-host is the lovely, whatever her name is, Leslie Martin. And our very special guest today is Dr. Kelly Renee Schutz. I always want to say Renee Kelly Schutz. I don't know why, but it's just do. And we're brought to you by Circles of Wisdom, 386 Merrimack Street, Methuen, Massachusetts. The Glant Messier Family Law Group, 55 High Street, North Andover, Massachusetts. Our very, very good friends on Ghost Chronicles Radio on Patreon. Become a member, get access to, I don't know, 30 or 40 things on, I don't know what the hell is a whole pile of them. Also, we're brought to you by positively brilliant Reiki infused candles by somebody I know. What's her name? Leslie Martin, right
Yeah,
there,
that's me.
and it's available on Etsy. Did I say that right?
You did, Ron. Good job.
Yeah, well, I try, but I never get it right. You know that all these years. Anyways, we'll be right back with Dr. Kelly Renee Schutz, and hopefully, she'll tell us a little bit about some of her personal experiences as well. And we'll be right back.
Do you have a paranormal event, book, or something else you want people to know about? Then why not advertise it on Ghost Chronicles Radio? With over 150,000 downloads a month, get your message out to an audience that's interested in the subject. We have a plan at a cost that fits your needs. For more information, contact Ron Kolick at anyghostproject@comcast.net or call 978-455-6678.
Located in Illinois, there lies a sleepy little town where nothing is a common occurrence.
You going to that party in town tonight?
Heck yeah! I only turned 18 once.
That is until the night of celebration.
Where the hell is she? Oh no. No, 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 Jessica!
What's happening?
From the creators of Shadowhunters, Bite Me, comes a tale of primal terror and grindcore mayhem. Shadowhunters, kill, Jessica, kill!
Are you reading me? Come in. Hello? Greetings from the Shadow, and welcome to Shadowzine. My name is Jeff Belanger. I'm an author, podcaster, and explorer of the unexplained. For 30 years, I've been investigating the paranormal, UFOs, monsters, and things that bump in the night. Lately, you may have noticed how major TV networks and even social media networks have been pushing our favorite subject back into the shadows. I say good. That's why I launched Shadowzine, a monthly underground publication that covers your favorite topics in depth by some of the leading writers and researchers out there. If you're looking for 30-second TikTok clips, go somewhere else. If you're ready for a deeper dive, put down your phone and pick up Shadowzine. You can't find it in stores. This is old school print. Head to shadowzine.com and be part of the underground revolution. That's shadowzine.com, and I'll see you in the shadow.
Welcome back. You are listening to Ghost Chronicles, the medium rare edition, with your hosts Ron Kolick, me, Leslie Martin, and our special guest this evening is Dr. Kelly Renee Schutz.
Hey, Kelly, you with us?
I'm right here, right
There
here.
you go. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, by the way. It's been a great conversation in the beginning, but I'd like to hear a little bit about some of your personal experiences.
Me too.
All right. Well, as we went to break, I wrote down several really interesting ones. I don't know, and they're not in any particular order. I have had, again, over 100 plus experiences. My books outline many different experiences, but why don't we first start out with the one where where I was kicked up into the air. And the reason why I'm going to bring this one up is because I want it to be a thought moment when I'm done with this story. So, for those of you who are familiar with Yosemite National Park in California, there is a hotel called the Groveland Hotel. And at the Groveland Hotel, I wanted to stay in Lyle's room. Lyle's room was the most haunted room. But of course, when I got there and they were assigning them as people arrived, I ended up in a room down the hallway. I was really disappointed. I really wanted to have an experience. But I did have an experience, and it was probably even better than being in Lyle's room. Now, Lyle was known to not like it when ladies would put their makeup products on the dresser. And so that was Lyle's pet peeve. In my room, though, I really didn't know if anything was going to go on in there because I gave up at that point. But here's what happened to me. It was about it was your perfect night. The mountains around there are lined with silver. It was a clear night, very starry, very bright. Moon was shining out there, so nice, good elements to start the evening. And basically, what happened was about 2:30 in the morning. I found myself being thrusted up, kicked up into the air, literally, by something where I felt something underneath my back thrust me up into the air, and found myself waking up by bouncing on the bed. And of course, my husband is lying right next to me, and you couldn't wake him up for nothing. But here I am bouncing on the bed, and so I'm like, "What the heck?" And I was almost afraid to open my eyes because apparently, once I did find the journal in the room, this apparition that liked to stay in that room was a miner. He liked to turn the faucets on and off. He liked to trap people in the bathroom. In other words, not let the door open when they were in there until he was ready. And the other thing that he liked to do was hide socks and remotes underneath the bed. But one of his pet peeves was people who snored. And so and most of us know that when you go to a hotel, they sometimes have okay pillows and sometimes their pillows are just horrendous. And so anyway, I was on one of these flat, horrendous pillows, and it caused me, of course, to snore like a train. Well, that's when all of a sudden I'm being thrusted up to the air. You know, if something can tell you shut up very fast, it could be what I did. I did feel, though, the foot underneath my back, though, as I went flying. However, when I did interview someone later on one of my shows, he posed a different question to me. He said, "You said the elements were right." I said, "Yeah, it was just, great. I mean, being up in the mountains, and it was just beautiful and perfect. That starry night." He goes, "How do you not know that you weren't abducted and dropped, and that this foot that you thought was underneath your back was actually trying to stop you from having a really hard fall?"
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so I thought about that for a moment because I have had a few people literally ask me well, not ask me, one literally tell me, it was a speaker at a conference, "How do you not know you haven't been abducted, your memory erased, because what you're telling me right now are things that these people that come into my office tell me all the time." And I just was so dumbfounded. I never even believed in UFOs as even a possibility at that point. It was all paranormal all the way. And so that was kind of an interesting moment. But I thought what was really funny was the next day when we left. And I did find the journal, by the way, and it took me to go all the way to the back where one person had the bed shaking on them. And she said, because apparently the ghost that hides underneath the bed doesn't like snoring. And it just, two and two just kind of came together for me at that point. But that was kind of an interesting twist about being dropped and having something stop you from a hard fall rather than. And so, which one do I believe? I don't know. I'm kind of still leaning in the direction of doesn't like a snoring customer, and that was the one way to get its point across. So that's one story. I'm going to hesitate for a second here. Did you have a question, or do you want me to go into another story?
No, that was interesting. Let's see. What do you think about that?
I would go with your gut. If you thought it was somebody who was kicking you up, I would go with your gut. It's intriguing that there may be another explanation, but you were there and you were
Yep.
experiencing, I can't even speak it. And you should just, it was your experience. What do you think happened?
I think the miner was irritated that I was snoring really loudly, and that was its only way of shutting me up. But the thing is, did it have to kick? Couldn't it just not have shaken the bed? Did it have to kick me up into the air? I would
No.
say I went about, just from the way I bounced. I would say I went up about a foot. I
Wow.
wouldn't say anything more than that, but if I was truly dropped from the sky, from something, and I'm going to tell you, I have had otherworldly experiences, and I have had what sounds like like a cloaked some kind of a ship or some kind of a whatever you want to call it craft. I have had those experiences in a house that I formerly lived in, and this is my fifth house that I'm in right now because I have haunted literally 4 out of 5 homes since I began. Yeah, began ghost searching, hunting. People don't like the word hunting, so I say searching. And it got to the point where it was so bad that portals were open in my last home, and I had just a number of experiences. Maybe they want to hear next about the handprint that was on my body that basically was one of the final factors in our selling the house because it became so active that I was seeing orbs the size of a small basketball inside a dark room, captured a lot of intelligent movement regarding orbs. I had things go through over my head, but what happened and what was kind of one of the final straws was I'm a night owl. I work a lot. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a workaholic. Went to bed around 2 a.m. No sooner than about within 10 to 15 minutes of lying down, difficult to fall asleep. I smelt this really wretched smell. It was wretched. It smelled like a cross between something deceased, I guess, and something with perfume on it. It just stunk. It was terrible. And so I, of course, blamed my husband. And I said, I don't know what kind of shampoo my husband is using, but tomorrow I am going to tell him, ditch the shampoo, And so it wasn't his shampoo. The next day when I got up, I went to the restroom, and I looked in the mirror, and there was a blood red purple. I kid you not, as God is my witness, literally embedded over my, let's see, it'd be if you're looking forward, it would be the left side over my bronchial on my chest, but it was upside down, and one of the fingers was very crooked, which was not my hand because I don't have crooked fingers, and it was very pronounced. So something stuck its hand on me, and I lent it back to that smell. But anyway, I went downstairs, and I said to my husband, look, there is a handprint on my body. And he just looked at it like, like I was from outer space. But it stayed there literally for 3 hours in its blood red. It didn't dissolve or disappear or dissipate. It didn't do any of that. It was there. And then 3 hours later, boom, it was gone. But what was really interesting about this handprint is that for the next umpteen months, there's a story that goes behind this. I would be begging the universe, could somebody please tell me who put this handprint on my body? And I kept begging and begging, went to 5 different psychics. Oh, one says it's an old woman. One says, oh, it's a succubus. Another one says, that's an alien. And one said it was a mantis being / or could have been a gray. Okay, so now I'm thinking about all this, and I'm still saying to the universe, I really, really seriously want to know, where did that thing come from? Who put it there? And most importantly, why? Well, I got all my answers. So I would say months out, I had COVID so badly. I almost died twice. I passed out to blackness once. I had it for 8 months, and it was like I had to go through lung therapy and the whole 10 yards. Wow. Over the bronchial of which the handprint was located, which is directly over it, was where I had COVID pneumonia, which, if anyone's familiar with COVID pneumonia, it's kind of like a cement block. You get these little pieces that break off, and they kind of create kind of a block, so it's really hard to breathe. Okay, so anyway, after that handprint went over my bronchial, and keep in mind, I had this for 8 months, and then I'm wondering all this sort of thing. I was miraculously healed. It was completely gone. All right, now it gets even better than that. So my fifth psychic said, when I went to the fifth psychic, I had a dream, and the dream was, I've never had it before. I didn't see anything on TV that would have resembled this. It looked like my husband's cousin's daughter, about 28, walking away from me, had jeans on and a regular top, but then stopped slowly and turned around. It was at the point that this thing turned around that I absolutely I didn't recognize it. I went, oh my God. And what it was it had a big gray like eyes, those big almond black eyes. It had a black COVID mask over its face, so I couldn't see the face entirely. It was like it was trying to disguise itself. It had a part down the middle and kind of long brownish hair. And I woke up, I was in a complete sweat. My heart was beating out of my chest so fast you couldn't stop it. And I screamed and I said, "Don't ever show like that to me ever again. Whatever you are, out, out. I don't want you in, I don't ever want to see you again." So when I brought that up to the fifth psychic that I went to, he said, "Let's break this down. So if you want to talk about logic," and I have a law background, I was trained to break things down entirely. He said, "Black COVID mask?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Handprint over your bronchial area?" "Yes." He said, "Big almond shaped eyes?" He said, "Kelly, that's either a mantis healer or a gray, and they were trying to show you that they were the ones that healed you." And I said, "Really?" And he says, "Mantis healers, if it was that, because if you look at the spindly hands on a mantis, one of the fingers did kind of resemble what could have been a mantis hand, but it could also be a gray's hand." So anyway, when I go to conferences now and I share that story and I show the pictures, I show a combination of like a humanoid, kind of a gray, and also a humanoid. And I say, put these together and put a black mask over its face. And that's what it looked like. So it was kind of interesting. Have I ever seen it since? No. Have I ever seen it before? No, never have. And I'm completely healed, but miraculous healing right then.
That's amazing. Yeah.
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 Thank you for healing me, but never come back.
That's exactly what I said. But I had more interesting experiences there and that. I would wake up at night. I put up an infrared camera because I was really curious about what was going in. So I noticed at night that there were orbs flying in and outside in me and out of me. I noticed that they were coming over my head. So there's a part of the wall in the back over our bed that they like to enter through, otherwise probably a portal. And it was just very interesting to watch the behavior of some of these very intelligent moving type orbs coming through that thing. I would wake up at times with no clothes on, and my clothes would be at the bottom of the bed,
Oh,
on
wow.
the chair, down at the bottom in a puddle, or nicely folded. And I don't do that stuff in my sleep. When I was very young, I woke up once with a very long prom-like dress on. It was completely inside out. The zipper was a long zipper. It was zipped all the way up to my neck. And if you want to try and figure out how to get out of a dress that's inside out, that's zipped up all the way to your neck, it took me a while. I mean, that was a struggle. And so, I have had things happen. Some people ask me if they think something is following me to kind of watch over me for some reason. I'm leaning towards a yes on that for various reasons. And just the fact that I've been miraculously healed more than once in my life where I should have passed away. So it's just kind of, my life is always very interesting, very
Yeah.
interesting.
It seems very interesting whatsoever. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. Every day is a journey.
And you wake up with a prom dress on inside out.
Exactly. Well, let's talk a little bit about the shadow person that showed up on my birthday. I think that one might be very interesting to people.
Okay.
So just a couple years ago, it wasn't long ago, I wanted to always stay in this train car, a historic train car. There was a couple on the property in my state. And I didn't know that they're haunted. They never said that these train cars were haunted, but they were restored and refurbished with parts from all over the country. And so I was in there just kind of, we're doing our thing. And I had always wanted, I thought it was very unique and very much of the time and all that. And they had a history of it. And I just, for some reason, got a really weird feeling going down the long, dark hallway. And so I took out my camera. And if you put your cameras on night mode, where you have no flash on, just completely night mode, it was pitch black. And there was just a hint of light in the living room area way behind me. And I just turned and I went click, click, click. You know, I call it the sandwich effect. It's the thing in the middle that I hope to capture. And I captured something, and it was a perfect shadow person. And so I looked at that and I just absolutely started shaking, because even though I have been through some of the most terrifying experiences, you never really get over sometimes some of these that take you by surprise. So I went to my husband and I said, "Look, do you think this is something?" And I was shaking because I knew the answer was yes. And so he knew if he said yes, he knew I would have been packed up and out of there in a heartbeat, because when you're dealing with shadow people, you're not quite sure what you're dealing with. Are you dealing with something otherworldly? Are you dealing with something that was embedded somewhere in that train car that would, when it was restored, came in with it? Did it actually die? This thing die in there? I filtered it like I did with the apparitions in the window, about 100 through 100 different filters, and was able to determine it was a woman who was looking at my very faint shadow on the back wall. And she had long brown hair, if it was a she, but I think it was a she, long brown hair, wearing a coat. And that was very prominent. You could see that. And so that, by the way, I was terrified, but I also sent that to my hometown newspaper and had a long spread on that, and then the history of my life, and of course made the Halloween edition. So
Of
that was
course they do. Always the Halloween. Unfortunately, you're not going to believe it, but we've run out of time.
oh
Do you believe it?
already.
I know, huh?
So fast. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, I mean, it's been very interesting speaking with you, and if where can people get your books for the first thing? That's the most important thing.
Okay, so Amazon, and I would say my most popular are, real quickly, Message Received, Manifestations, Haunted Life, and Phenomena, which was my last one. And you can get them on Amazon or Barnes and Noble.
Okay, so there you go. And you have any new projects coming up, or any appearances?
This year is going to be on hold, if I might be possibly moving to another state.
Oh yeah.
Everything. I had 4 appearances that I was asked to speak at various conferences, and I had to say no. I had to put everybody on hold because I
Oh.
think I'm going to be moving. So
I'm sorry for you. But anyway, well, thank you, Kelly. It's been really great. And you can also catch her shows. I know you can catch Phantasm on Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock on Power X, and also Paranormal Encounters Thursday night, which is tomorrow night, by the way, at 11, or tonight, actually. I'm confused. No, tomorrow night. Yeah, tomorrow night.
Today's
Anyways,
Wednesday.
but where can how about your other podcasts?
oh my goodness, I've got so many other podcasts. Disembodied Voices is on Paraflix if you want to see the TV one, and also on YouTube under Haunted Mysteries is one, and also Paranormal Latte. Those are visual. So all 3 of those are visual. And yes, Ron, thank you so much for having, and Leslie. We won't put Leslie in the corner here. Thank you for having me on.
Oh,
I
thank
just
you.
want to say thank you so much for opening up, because it takes a brave person to put themselves out there with their experiences, because people are so afraid of what are people going to think of me. But I think you're a very brave soul, and thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone. God bless and stay safe.
From goalies to ghosties, long-leggedy beasties, and things that go bump in the night.